In February 1959, 9 experienced hikers entered the remote Ural Mountains in the Soviet Union. They were young, trained, and confident in their abilities. Most of them were students or graduates from the Ural Polytechnic Institute, and they were part of an experienced hiking club that regularly organized winter expeditions in difficult environments. Their leader was a 23-year-old engineering student named Igor Dyatlov. Dyatlov had already completed several demanding trips in the past and was known among his friends as someone who remained calm under pressure. The group trusted him, and they had every reason to believe the journey ahead would simply be another difficult but rewarding expedition. The plan was to travel deep into the northern Ural Mountains and cross a remote mountain pass before returning home. The journey would take several days and require navigating through forests, frozen rivers, and exposed mountain slopes where temperatures could fall well below -30°C. Despite the harsh environment, the group was well prepared. They carried skis, warm clothing, food supplies, cameras, maps, and journals. Like many explorers, they documented their journey carefully. Photographs taken along the route show the group laughing, building snow shelters, and joking with one another as they traveled through the wilderness. Nothing about those images suggests fear or danger. The expedition began in late January 1959. The group traveled by train through Soviet cities before continuing by truck toward the last small settlements near the mountains. Eventually the road ended, and the hikers continued their journey on skis into the frozen wilderness. The landscape around them was vast and empty. Snow covered the forests and mountain slopes, and the wind constantly moved across the open terrain. It was the kind of place where a person could travel for days without seeing another human being. During the early part of the expedition, one member of the group began to feel ill. Rather than risk slowing down the others, he decided to turn back and return home. That decision would unknowingly save his life. The remaining 9 hikers continued deeper into the mountains. By February 1st, they had reached a slope on a mountain known as Kolatsyacho. The name comes from the language of the indigenous Mansi people and translates to something ominous: Dead Mountain. Despite the name, there was nothing supernatural about the location. It was simply a harsh and exposed mountain with strong winds and heavy snowfall. That evening, the hikers decided to set up their tent on the open slope above the tree line. Some experts later questioned this decision because the forest below could have provided protection from the wind. However, camping on the slope may have allowed the group to make faster progress the following morning. Nearly 3 weeks after the hikers had last been seen, rescuers finally discovered their tent. The sight was disturbing. The tent was partially covered with snow but still standing. When investigators examined it closely, they noticed something strange. The fabric of the tent had been cut open from the inside. Instead of leaving through the entrance, the hikers had slashed through the side of the tent as if they needed to escape immediately. Inside the tent, investigators found most of the group's belongings. Boots, coats, cameras, food supplies, and personal equipment were still there. It looked as if the hikers had fled in extreme haste. Outside the tent, investigators discovered footprints in the snow, leading down the slope of the mountain toward a nearby forest. The tracks suggested that the hikers had left quickly, but not in total panic. Some footprints belonged to people wearing socks. Others appeared barefoot. A few prints showed someone wearing only one boot. None of the hikers appeared to be fully dressed for the freezing conditions. The temperature that night had fallen to nearly -30°C. The footprints continued down the mountain for about a kilometer before reaching the forest. That was where the first bodies were discovered. 2 hikers were found beneath a large cedar tree. They wore only light clothing and appeared to have died from hypothermia. Nearby, investigators found the remains of a small fire made from broken branches. It seemed the hikers had tried desperately to warm themselves after leaving the tent. As the search continued, more bodies were discovered scattered between the forest and the abandoned tent. Some of the hikers appeared to have been attempting to return to the campsite. Others were discovered months later when the snow began to melt during the spring. When investigators examined the bodies, they discovered injuries that made the mystery even more difficult to explain. One hiker had a fractured skull. Another had severe chest trauma so powerful that later experts compared the injuries to those normally seen in high-speed car crashes. Perhaps the strangest detail involved one of the victims who was found without her tongue. Despite the severity of these injuries, investigators found no clear signs of a violent struggle. There were no weapons. There were no footprints belonging to other people in the area. There was no evidence that the hikers had been attacked. Something had forced them to leave their tent and run into the freezing darkness, but no one could determine what it was. Over the decades, many theories have been proposed to explain what happened on that mountain. One of the most widely accepted explanations involves a rare type of avalanche known as a slab avalanche. According to this theory, a section of snow above the tent may have shifted during the night, creating the fear that the slope might collapse. If the hikers believed an avalanche was about to bury them, cutting their way out of the tent and moving downhill quickly might have seemed like the safest option. However, some researchers argue that the slope where the tent was located was not steep enough to produce a major avalanche. Others believe the group may have been affected by infrasound. Infrasound is a type of low-frequency vibration that humans cannot consciously hear but can still feel. Certain wind patterns moving across mountain slopes can create these vibrations. Some scientists suggest that infrasound can trigger feelings of anxiety, panic, and disorientation. If the hikers experienced this phenomenon during the night, they may have abandoned their shelter without fully understanding why. Another theory suggests that secret Soviet military tests were taking place nearby. During the Cold War, the Soviet Union conducted many classified experiments involving rockets and explosives. Some researchers believe the hikers may have accidentally witnessed one of these tests. There were also reports from witnesses who claimed to see strange glowing lights in the sky around the time of the incident. These lights were described as orange spheres moving silently above the mountains. While some believe these reports were simply distant rockets or atmospheric phenomena, others consider them another strange detail connected to the case. For decades, the Dyatlov Pass incident remained one of the Soviet Union's most puzzling mysteries. The official investigation eventually closed with a vague conclusion. According to the report, the hikers died because of what investigators described as a compelling natural force. But the report never clearly explained what that force was. In recent years, modern researchers have revisited the case using new scientific tools and computer simulations. Some experts now believe a small slab avalanche combined with extreme weather conditions may have triggered the events of that night. Once outside in the freezing darkness, the hikers may have struggled to find their way back to the tent. Separated, injured, and exposed to brutal wind and cold, survival would have become extremely difficult. Some of them may have tried to build a fire. Others may have attempted to return to their shelter. But in temperatures that low, even small mistakes can quickly become fatal. This explanation answers some questions about the Dyatlov Pass incident, but not all of them. Even today, more than 60 years later, investigators and historians continue to debate what really happened on that mountain. 9 experienced hikers entered the wilderness. Only their footprints came back. Decades after the Dyatlov Pass incident, the story continues to captivate and mystify us. The initial investigation in 1959 was inconclusive, blaming the deaths on a compelling natural force. But what does that even mean? For years, theories have swirled, ranging from secret military tests and UFO encounters to an attack by the local Mansi people, or even an encounter with a Yeti. The lack of clear evidence only fueled the speculation, turning this tragedy into one of the 20th century's greatest unsolved mysteries. But now, modern science is shedding new light on this cold case. In 2021, researchers proposed a compelling new theory backed by computer simulations. They suggest a rare and specific type of slab avalanche could have been the trigger. Imagine a slab of snow, delayed by the unique terrain and weather conditions, suddenly giving way in the middle of the night. This would explain the tent being cut from the inside, a panicked escape, and why the hikers fled into the freezing darkness without proper gear. It also accounts for the unusual, non-fatal traumatic injuries some of the hikers sustained, consistent with being crushed by a heavy wall of snow. While this slab avalanche theory provides a logical, scientific explanation for many of the bizarre details, It doesn't answer every question. The mystery still holds a powerful grip on our imagination, inspiring books, documentaries, and endless online discussions. It's a chilling reminder of nature's power and the fragility of human life in the face of the unknown. What do you think really happened on that frozen mountain? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into fascinating mysteries.